In this video, we will show you how to replace your front door inside door handle to latch cable on this Ford Fusion. This will be located inside of your front door. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. We're going to have to remove the door panel, so let's start just behind the inside door handle. Now looking in this area, you're going to find a small plastic panel. We'll remove that using a small angled pick. Just pull on that handle, make your way behind, and pull this out of place. Behind that, you have a 10mm headed mounting bolt. Moving just below that, we're going to start dislodging the panel that's right around where the grab handle is and our window switch. To dislodge this, I'm going to use a small pocket screwdriver to gently start pulling this up, and then I'll continue on with a plastic trim tool so I don't cause any damage. When doing this, you want to start along this area here and not over on this side close to where the armrest is. On the plastic panel, it has a small hook that makes its way underneath this, so we do not want to pry here. You can see my locking tab starting to protrude up here. There's one, there's another one. There's that hooked area I was mentioning. Continuing on, we have our wiring harness along the inboard side there. Squeeze on the locking tab and dislodge this. A quick inspection of both ends to confirm that there's no corrosion. If you see some, you need to take care of it. Quick inspection and we'll set this aside. With that out of the way, you can see two 5.5mm mounting screws. We'll remove the pair. Now let's make our way down along the bottom of the door panel. We'll find two more screws down there. You can see one of the mounting screws here. Make our way over. There's the other. We use a 7mm for these. Got our mounting bolts out of there. We'll continue on with our plastic trim tool. We want to try separating the door panel from the door. Just make your way in between and gently pry. It does have several push tabs holding it in place. Now we can start lifting this up. Keep in mind, as you pull this away, there still is an inside door handle cable and several wiring harnesses to disconnect. To remove the cable, it has a locking tab that you want to use a small pocket screwdriver. It's right along this area on the outboard side. Once you start pulling that away from the door handle itself, you should be able to pull the cable out and away as well. With the cable dislodged, we have our 3 electrical wiring harnesses you can see here. Each of these has a locking tab. You want to squeeze in on it, remove them. A quick inspection for corrosion, of course. Now we can remove the door panel. With the panel out of the way, we're going to remove our vapor barrier from this area. Looking through it, you can see all this black goo. That's actually butyl tape. It's extremely sticky, and you don't want to get it on your clothing or your skin. We'll just gently start pulling this away. You can use a small razor blade if necessary, or even just your trim tool. We'll start pulling it away from the door. There we are. Just tuck this aside for now. Continuing from there, we're going to remove the door speaker. To remove the door speaker, start with the wiring harness. It has a locking tab. Press it in and disconnect this. Quick inspection for corrosion. Continue on to your 3 7mm headed mounting bolts. You can see one here, one just below it. The other one's on the far side, essentially creating a triangle. Take hold of that door speaker and pull it out of place. Now let's reconnect our window switch. Just get this lined up, press it in. Continuing from here, you want to put the key in the on position, and we're going to power the window down. There's 2 areas that we need to pay attention to. One area will be right inside this larger port here. The next one will be inside the speaker port. We're looking for the bottom of the window, the connection point between the window regulator and the window itself. With the key in the on position, let's power this window down. We'll be paying attention inside of our larger port here. A little bit further. We want to make sure we can see this area right along the side of the window regulator in both of the ports. We have the larger port. It's very simple to see. The smaller port is the speaker port. You want to be able to see both areas of the window where it connects to the window regulator. This looks good. Let's go ahead and turn off key power. Now we can carefully make our way inside the door. We want to be extremely careful for any pinch points at all times. You don't want to get hurt while reaching in this area. Now what we need to do is pay attention along the back side of the window glass itself. If you were looking inside of this oval looking slot of the window regulator, there's a circular port on the glass, and then there's an area where plastic protrudes out towards me. That's the locking tab. To dislodge this, you can either reach through here with a small prying device or a screwdriver if necessary, press on that locking tab, forcing it towards the outboard side of the door, then gently lift up on the glass, or you could carefully make your way along the inside here, gently pry that whole locking tab away with something such as a trim tool if necessary. Just put this right in here. You can see my port with the plastic. Being very careful not to cause any damage to the glass. Now while I'm holding that, I'm going to lift up on the glass here, separating it. There we are, that started to lift up. I'm going to pause on this side and repeat the process on the side with the speaker port. Now that we have the window separated from the window regulator inside the door, let's make our way to the inside weather seal here. We'll just go ahead and pull up on that in the center, gently flex it away from each side, pull it out of place. Continuing from here, we're going to carefully take hold of the window glass and start lifting it up and out of the door. Once we have it out of there, you're going to put it in a safe place, such as the back seat of your vehicle or wherever you feel safest. Let's be extremely careful throughout the rest of this process. We'll start tilting it. Let's make our way towards this area of the door. You're going to find a small circular plug. We can remove that using a small trim tool or a small pocket screwdriver, whatever's best for you. Looking inside this area, you're going to find a small T27 Torx screw that you're going to have to either loosen or tighten to be able to remove the outside door handle. We'll be turning this one direction and the other until it feels as though it starts popping out of place. We'll start by gently turning this counterclockwise, essentially loosening the screw while we tug on the outside door handle. Only pulling just enough here. We don't want to put too much pressure. Okay, there we are. I felt that release. Let's pause on the screw. Can remove this portion, that slides right out of there. Now you should be able to take hold of the handle. We're going to gently pull it away from the door and start rolling it out and away. Just go ahead and pull that towards the rearward aspect of the door as we pull this away. A quick inspection and we'll set this aside. Behind where the outside door handle is, you're going to find a T27 Torx screw. We can remove this. Let's make our way back inside the door. You can see two 10mm headed mounting bolts. These are for the window channel that makes its way up and down inside the door here. Now we can make our way to where the outside latch is. In this area, you're going to find 3 T27 Torx screws to remove. Now to remove this final bolt, you notice that the latch did want to go down, so I'm just going to carefully reach inside the door here. We'll hold onto the latch, remove that screw, and we can remove the latch assembly with the rest of the mounting bracket. Now as we start removing this, you can see the one electrical harness that leads to this has a locking tab where my thumb is. To help easily remove this, we're going to pop this wiring harness out of place. You can see one plastic grommet that makes its way out. That's holding the wiring harness to the door. By disconnecting this, it's going to give us a little bit more access here. We'll just press on the locking tabs. There's one on the top, one on the bottom. There we are. Just a quick inspection of that. Let's disconnect the electrical connector now. Now we can start removing this apparatus. Let's get this over to the bench. Now we can remove the inside door handle cable from the door lock actuator. Looking in this area, you can see a small locking tab. We want to gently pry this away from the door lock actuator, and then we'll tilt this and start removing the rest of the cable from the door lock actuator. Just going to try to use a small pocket screwdriver. You could also use a pick if necessary. We'll make our way into this groove while applying light pressure. We should be able to press this out of the latch assembly. Just have to try a couple times here. Okay, it's starting to separate. Being careful not to damage anything here. Now, as you can see, that did separate as it should. Let's continue on to flipping this over. Now we can lift this up and out of here, and you can see the next mounting point down inside this hole. For this, you just want to rotate the cable as necessary until it pops out of its mounting point. There it is, friend. Let's get ready to install our brand new inside door handle cable. Now for this, we want to try to pivot it down into this small groove. Want to make sure it's definitely latched in properly here. It does have a small hooked area. Double check, make sure that cannot pull out. Now we'll continue on to this plastic area. Down where my index finger is, you can see this small hooked area. That will slide in and underneath this area. Slide it right there. Now we're going to pivot the rest down once this is aligned, pressing it in, making sure it's secured. An audible click, a light tug. Now we can get this back over to the vehicle. Now we can get this in the door. Be extremely careful with both of the cables. You do not want to cause any damage to those. Now for this, we're going to have to carefully start bringing it in at an angle. We're starting with the latch/door actuator first, bringing it down inside here, and we'll rotate it up into the proper position, aligning our mounting bolt ports. See the latch line along the side here. There we are. We're going to start in the mounting bolts, but we are not going to tighten anything yet. Let's make our way to where the latch is, start in those as well, and then we'll make our way to the outside of the door for that one mounting bolt out there. Now we'll make our way on the outside of the door here. You should be able to move this around as necessary so we can line up this mounting bolt port. Once you do have it started in, you want to push this entire thing towards the outboard side of the door, close to where that latch is. Once it's bottomed out in that direction, we're going to continue on by tightening that mounting bolt. Let's make our way to where the door latch area is. We have our 3 mounting screws we started in. Snug those up as well. Let's move to the inside of the door. We have our 2 10mm mounting bolts. Now we can take our inside door handle cable. We're going to bring this up into position, sliding it through the door, through this port, out through us, and then we have this small rubber grommet. The rubber grommet will be pressed in here and make sure that it's seated properly. Take a couple tries here. With that fully mounted, the next thing we need to do is continue on to installing our electrical connector. For this, we'll take it and get it in place, sliding it in as far as possible. Listen for a click. Once you've heard a click, go ahead and give that a little tug, making sure that it is properly secured. You do not want that coming loose while you're driving down the road. Now continuing on, we have our small mounting point here. This will just press into the door. We have the small port right along here. Let's go ahead and press that right in. Now we can move along to reinstalling the window regulator inside this area. Looking at the door itself, you can see the 2 ports where the window regulator will mount up to. Let's get this in position, sliding each of the studs through the door, and we can continue on with both of our 10mm mounting nuts. Just have to flex this a little bit. They're both started, let's snug them up. Before we continue any further inside the door, let's make our way to the outside door handle. We'll start with the forward area. That's going to slide through this port. Just want to align it, start pressing it through. Now at this point, we're going to leave it in the pulled out/open position and make our way inside this center port. In this center port, I'm going to be carefully using an angled pick. We're going to have to make our way inside this area while paying attention up inside the window channel. Looking in this area, you can see my angled pick. What we're looking for is this hooked area right where my angled pick hook is, and that's essentially where the outside door handle will sit into. Essentially what we need to do with the angled pick is just to grab onto that and pull it towards the outboard side of the door. Now while holding it in this position, we're going to be extremely careful, but continue on the outer screw inside where the door latch would be, on the door jamb side there. In this area, we're going to turn our screw fully clockwise, tightening this, while paying attention on the inside. Now you can see that gray area? You see how it just broke free a little bit further and came towards the inboard side? We need to hold it there now and push in our outer door handle. To do that, we're going to start turning the screw in the door jamb counterclockwise now while applying pressure. We're waiting for this to make its way to the point that it's holding in place for us. Should see things start to slide in here. I'm going to remove my pick, being extremely careful for any pinch points. Carefully take hold of the outside door handle, and we're going to bring it inside the center port where it belongs. Now, while applying light pressure here, you should find that on the inboard side there, it broke free from its locked position, but the handle's actually inside that hooked area. If you were to take hold of the outside door handle, tug on it, it should retract. With that latched in, the next thing we're going to do is prepare to install this handle corner piece. If you were looking at the handle corner piece, you're going to see that it has two tabs right along here and here. That's for two locking tabs that will be located inside of this area. What we need to do is make sure each of these two tabs are pushed in towards the handle as far as possible. That'll be done by using the screw inside the door in the door jamb area. Now, while I start turning this counterclockwise, I'm paying attention to each of these two tabs. We should see them start pushing this way towards the handle like I mentioned, but they're only really going to go so far. Once it feels as though the screw is completely unscrewed, just turn it a little bit in. We want to make sure we're at least in one thread so the screw does not fall out. Now continuing from here, we're going to lightly tug on the outside door handle and then continue pressing each of those two locking tabs in just a little bit more. Once it seems as though those two are flush, we can continue on with that corner piece. We'll start pressing this in here. Once it's aligned, you want to press it in as far as possible, release the outside door handle, and continue on tightening the screw inside the door in the door jamb area. Double check to make sure that's secured and the door handle functions as it should. Now let's test the functionality as far as the outside door handle and the latch. I'm going to use this, bring it right inside this latch area, and we're pulling it towards the outboard side. At this point, the door thinks it's shut and I'm applying pressure in this direction towards the inside of the vehicle. Now I'm going to tug on the outside door handle and this should release. If it does not release, something's not lined up properly or the cable might have come disconnected in some way. Go ahead and check that now. Assuming it does work, let's install our protective plug here. Just line that up, press it in. Continuing on from here, it's time for the window glass. We're going to take this and gently start sliding it down inside the door, being extremely careful at all times. We need to get this aligned with the window regulator. We have those two locking tabs, one on each side of the regulator. We'll make sure that the glass is properly locked in. Extremely careful for any pinch points here as we continue on. I can see the window glass coming down towards where the window regulator locking tabs are. Once you're sure you have both sides aligned, continue on pressing this down until it's completely locked in. I heard an audible click from each side. I'm just going to confirm visually that I can see the locking tabs protruding through the window towards me on each side of this. There's one here, and there's one inside that speaker port. We've confirmed that the window is properly secured. It's time to install the speaker. Start with the electrical connector. You can press that right in. Listen for a click, a light tug. Continue on bringing this into position in the door. Once you have it aligned, start in all three of your 7mm headed mounting bolts and snug them up. continue on with our vapor barrier along its original positioning here. You can see exactly where it should be stuck to. If this is torn or damaged in some way, you want to either replace it or fix it. Press that all the way up against the door, ensuring it's properly adhesed. Now it's time for the inside window seal. We're going to take this and slide it down along the top of the door behind this plastic panel. Now we'll make our way all the way to the forward area here. We're going to flex the center up and press this down into position. After everything's pressed in along each side, you can press down the center, confirming it's properly locked in all the way across. Now it's time for the door panel. Let's bring this over. Along the inside, we're going to have to pay attention to our wiring harnesses. As for the wiring harnesses, we have the window switch wiring harness. That's going to go up and through the door panel, essentially where the window switch should be located. We'll rest this in this position, up nice and high, and continue on to the next 3 wiring harnesses just above it. Make sure that that's up there. Start pressing these in. After connecting all 3 of those, we're going to continue on to our inside door handle cable. Now for the inside door handle cable, we're going to take this and we're going to take the very tip of it and slide it behind this little tab. Once you have that slid behind there, you can roll the rest in. We're holding on to the thicker area here and we'll press it in. Now we can take that door panel. We're going to come up nice and high over the inside window seal. Once you start pressing that down, we're going to pay attention all the way along the door and the door panel, aligning our push tabs and pressing them into the proper positioning. A couple light taps all the way around, confirming it's properly secured. We'll continue on to our mounting hardware. It's time for the inside mounting hardware. We'll start inside behind the inside door handle here. We have our 1 10mm headed mounting bolt. Start it in by hand, snug it up. Continuing from there, we have our plastic protective panel. We'll pull on the inside door handle and slide this into position, press it in. Listen for a click all the way around from that. Making our way down towards the grab handle, we have our 2 small bolts. Continuing on, it's time to reconnect our window switch. For this, you just want to align the locking tab, press it in, listen for a click, of course. We're starting at the corner closest to the armrest. Slide it underneath this area. Now we're going to flex this, essentially bringing it up in the center while holding down on the front and the rear, pressing it in, and then lock it down along the center. Moving along, we're moving to the bottom of the door panel. We have 1 mounting bolt for each one of these ports here. These come in diagonally. Okay friend, we finished our installation. We've tested the functionality of the door handles and the door latch to confirm they work properly before installing the door panel. The next thing you need to do is go ahead and put the key in the on position and test the window functionality, confirming it makes its way all the way up and down as it should. Aside from that, thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.